Gonna have this very serious discussion, and an understanding and of all those things that you've done in your life, and sometimes when I play that in my head of the things that I've done in my life, I really get to worrying, I really worry about it, because I've done a lot of really horrible things, that even my family doesn't know, there's things that I've done, and I've said, that I wouldn't be able to repeat them, because like I was telling a young gentleman earlier, he thought it was really cool because he said he burned down a church, and I was telling him, I was like, look, man, I was like, anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. It can go against your character, it can go against, if, there's many rappers, that have actually gone to prison because they're rapping about those things that they've done. And when you say a particular detail or you say something, they'll present that in court and they'll use it. How would this person know that type of detail to those things? And I ask myself the details, because a lot of the stuff that I used to do when I was younger, we would do it at night. We would do it in closed four walls. Only those chosen few, would discuss a certain particular crime or a certain incident that we went through, because we had to trust one another. But I think to myself, when I play it in my head, I ask myself, what it's going to like to be judged by God, because he says that everything that I've done in the dark will come to light, and I worry about it. There's times that I worry about it because I fear God. I fear that judgment because he says very clearly in the Bible, it says, don't fear the one that can kill the body. Fear the one that can kill the body and destroy the soul. I said it to myself many times. I've been really close to death before, and I remember, when I was begging for my life for God to help me out, begging, to please, don't let me die, don't let me die in my sin because I knew I wasn't ready. I was scared. I was scared because I knew all those really dangerous things that I had done in my life. All those really horrible things, all those people that I've hurt, all the drug sales, everything that I've done, but I was able to make it. I was able to make it through that. And I said to myself, it wasn't that God, put me in the situation as a way of like tormenting me or making me feel the wrath. All he had to do is put the silence on. Oh, that's all he had to do is put the silence on. And I couldn't hear him. I couldn't feel him close anymore. I finally took it as, what, if you don't stay on point, if you don't stay on track, you're done. And that's how I took it. I took it and I said to myself, I'm like, man, if I could reach out to one person, I'm going to reach out to one person, and I think to myself, if I'm scared of getting judged, what about those loved ones? And I lost my father not that long ago, and it was a really tragic thing. I loved my dad. I loved him. Like, I can't even tell you, there was one time that the gang detectives came and picked me up because there was a certain individual that I can't discuss, because you can look him up, but he was stabbed, by some people, 20-some times, it was a super violent crime. As he's crawling away bleeding, they were stabbing him in his butt. It was horrible. It was a horrible thing, but I hadn't told my dad, I hadn't told anybody. It was only those few that were in that situation. And when the gang detectives came to pick me up, they were already with my dad, and I was a teenager still. And my dad looked at me. I as soon as I saw them, I saw the detectives. I looked at him with shame, and he just whispered in my face. He said, "Is this what you want for your life?" And I remember that feeling that it gave me in my heart. I remember that feeling that detectives can go to prison forever than to see my dad like that. And I feel like the Father's the same way. Jesus Christ it's the exact same thing. But this is even a greater thing, and I worried about that situation, and when my dad passed, when my father passed, he asked me before he died, he said, son, does God forgive? And I said, yeah. He's like, do you think he would forgive, I killed a couple of people? And I'd already heard the stories before because my dad was, I followed in my dad's footsteps. My dad had a stab wound in his stomach. He was being shot in the leg. He'd killed multiple people, and in those times in Mexico, it was hard, it was a hard life, So it was understanding that, people died, there was, it was like, it was just natural, And but the day he left, I was right there at his feet. I watched him go. I watched the spirit leave. It's something so life-changing that I can't describe the amount of pain that I felt in my heart. But I said to myself, please God, let my dad make it. Because now myself, I have control. I'm seeking God's face. I'm in control of what I'm doing today. You know, I can have somebody call me and I still get phone calls and say, hey man, you know, let me plug you in. I just don't want to do it. There's no way. I don't want to start my life over again selling drugs over here. You know, starting to. I used to ask for contracts to kill people. You know what I mean? I said, I already put in my head, these guys are gangsters. I'm a gangster. I'm going to kill one. I'm going to get paid for it. It's not that big a deal. Life goes on for everybody in this world. You know, but I say to myself, you know, I watched the spirit leave. I watched him go. You know, I watched him slowly breathe slower and slower. And he left. He was gone. And that image, you know, playing that in my head, you know, it's always been difficult. It's even talking about it is really difficult because, you know, it's so vivid. It's so I can see it. I was right there at his feet, you know. And but I say to myself, man, here I am. At this point, I didn't even care about myself. I said, what about my dad? You know, and as he's leaving, you know, I prayed over his chest, and he was gone. That was it. You know, and now that he's gone, you know, I think to myself, you know, it's like I know my family sometimes, you know, because I talk to him about the details in the Bible and what we shouldn't do and this and that, you know, and sometimes I can come off really legalistic and you know, think that, you know, nothing's forgiven, but all is forgiven, but it's the move towards God. It's the move towards Jesus Christ is the important thing that we should be hunting for. You know, because nobody has the real answer. Nobody has the right answer. And even then, those people that have died and come back, they all say the same thing. It's all a scary situation. It's all a decision. There's tons of stories like that. You know what I mean? But I don't want to experience that. I don't want to experience that story for it to confirm with me, because it says, "Greater is he who believes without seeing than the one that believes because they saw it." You know, and I say to myself, you know what? I don't even want to see it. I don't even want to see it because I don't even know if my heart can take it. I don't even know if my soul can take it, because it would only convict me even more. If I saw some amazing miracle, I would say to myself, like, man, like I'm just inching closer and closer to knowing God more and more, and it scares me. But it does say that the beginning to wisdom is the fear of God. And I do feel it. But sometimes, you know, I see what's in front of me. I think to myself, you know, the struggle in front of me, this, you know, I need money, I need, you know, I want to do this for my family. I want to do this, you know, I have enemies. I can't even go to my own neighborhood, you know, without causing problems. And potentially, you know, I know that they've wanted many times to kill me. But all that stuff, I mean, I put all that stuff aside because in reality, I'm here today, gone tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's a chance there's some of you passing by people and you see their face and maybe you remember them or not, but then they perish. You know, I had a friend that I met here in Portland. Super nice guy. I mean, this guy, anybody I spoke to, you know, always had amazing things to say about this guy. And he was an older gentleman, and he had some surgery, and they happened to put him on a certain particular pain reliever, which I used to deal with very heavily back in the day. And he took too much. He took too much, and he's gone. You know, and I say to myself, man, he was such an amazing face, man, amazing smile, you know, a conversation, just, it was a beautiful guy. And I say to myself, now that man's life is gone, and now he has to be risen for the judgment. And that's my concern, you know what I mean? It says, God always is talking about love, but love isn't always just allowing you to do what makes you happy. You know, it's sometimes it's those hard conversations, you know what I mean? I had conversations with some of my former friends, like, dude, you know, we shouldn't be pushing this. You know, we shouldn't kill that guy. We shouldn't get involved with this. You know, but here we are. It's too late. We're already in it. We're going to continue. We're going to push through regardless of what happens. And many times that happens. And I've been to court. And I've heard, you know, I see my co-defendants there, you know, sitting right next to me, standing there and giving their testimony and listening to their crime history. And we're all matching up. We're all hard criminals. We all think that we're so cool as teenagers. You know, we think, you know, we're going to make it. I had put it in my head, you know, when I was 16, I said to myself, if I kill somebody and I get busted, I'm just going to go to the pen until I'm 21. I could do those 4 or 5 years, no problem. I'll take a life, you know what I mean? That's my enemy. You know, but the thing is that it's only a one-sided thought process. Because what about their family? What about those that call him a loved one? You know, there were so many times that I changed lives, and I could have changed a person's life, and something happened where I did it. You know, but I thank God for that. I thank God for that, because there's so many situations like that every single day. It doesn't matter, you know, just because I used to be a former gang member, you know, that doesn't matter that the situation can't be in another way. You know, people drink and they get in their car and they're like, hey, I can make it home. I can drive. I'm good. You know, it's all cool. I'm just 10-minute drive from here, and all of a sudden, man, you fall asleep at the wheel. You hit somebody. They're gone. You live, they're gone, their family's gone. It happens all the time. In my town, many young kids were getting drunk and crashing their car and killing themselves. And it's a sad thing. It's a really, really sad thing. But where are we telling those that are drinking, like, hey man, just get an Uber. It's not about the drinking, it's about you making it home safe and not affecting somebody else. Because the Bible says treat others how you would want to be treated. You know, and so that's the thing, is that it's slowly in this world, you know, we're inching away from, you know, losing respect for a fellow human being. Not to the complex of women and men, just a human being from the very beginning, that they're creation, they have a soul, they're somebody beautiful, you know, they have the ability to take their own actions and, you know, respond to you, conversate. But in the end of the day, you know, that's why we're out here, because that truth, sometimes it may be harsh, sometimes it may be tough to listen to, but sometimes some of us need it, you know what I mean? Because we need that reality check, because we look at life, especially here in America. Man, I never struggled. Even when I went through the court system, I never once struggled. It was incredibly easy. You'd go into court, they'd ask you, are you able to hire a defender? And as a young child, or as a young man, you know, I had money, you know, I used to hustle, you know, I had friends who were incredibly, very, very high up gang members, and they had money. And I would ask for a defender, go through court, you know, your attorney would ask you, you know, they would ask you, you know, we got this plea bargain and so forth, and we can just push you through, you know, you're going to do this much time, so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, with Jesus is your lawyer. And Jesus is defending you with everything he's got. He's there, he's like, look man, I know he did this, I know he did that, I know he went over here and he hurt this person, you know, he sold drugs, he infected this community, he did all of these horrible things. But please let him go. And the Father's going to be like, hey, Jesus is the best lawyer money doesn't buy. and you're free. But the thing is that once we offend and we're cleared of those sins, and then we offend again, this is the problem, that we don't stay on this straight path. It's so incredibly easy, you know, when my friend, you know, before he passed, you know, and he was already dying. He was already going, you know, he was really sick. He had pancreatic cancer, you know, and man, he used to, in order to cope with the fact that he was dying, because he was counting down that time, he would snort pills, and just one of these things would destroy a person. It would destroy one person. Like you could overdose on one of these things. I mean, and he would do 5 of them, grind them up, put them in his nose, and then 10 minutes later do another 5, and then 10 minutes later do another 5, and you can slowly watch him just zone out, and give him like 10-15 minutes, and he'd come back to earth, and he's like, all right, let's do this. And then we go do our thing. We go start, you know, handling business. And it was tough. It was tough to watch him go, you know, because I didn't care that, you know, he was doing that or anything like that. You know, I cared about the good stuff that was about him. You know what I mean? But once he's gone, he's got to face the same judgment as I do. And it's a scary thing, and he was gone. He was gone. There was no coming back. I even made a joke with him in the hospital. I said, yo, dog, I'm going to pull up. Let's ride out. And he said, looked at me, he's like, I'm done. I'm not going to make it. Sure enough, a couple days later, he was gone. You know, and this is, for some reason, you know, all the death, I always see the death, you know, from my own neighborhood. You know, there's horrendous, these horrible stories of these young men. It wasn't somebody older. It wasn't some, you know, he'd already lived an amazing life and, you know, got shot up, you know, at 75, and he, you know, his last breath was like, hey, thank you, Lord. You know, it wasn't anything like that. It was young. It was young men. You know what I mean? It was insane. It was crazy. I bought a
sign said, turn from your demons.
And his wife had testified against this gang member, against this gang, and they swung by his house. They swung by his house and lit it up, and he happened to be outside with his wife, and he got hit, she got hit. They had kids together. All the kids got they had to go to family members, just like that, all because she had testified against this gang, and they were gone. I mean, it's a horribly sad thing, you know what I mean? And I thought to myself, he was a really good guy. He was really clean, really guy, wouldn't smoke, wouldn't drink, just really about family. It changed his life. He was a former gang member himself, and he was gone. Just like that, in a blink of an eye. All it took is is for somebody up to make a decision,
That's above
swing by his house, and then he's gone. And you know, I play all these individuals in my head, you know, because this story is so incredibly common in my life. You know, these individuals that, you know, got murdered or got killed or got involved in something and went up. It's a horrible thing. But I think to myself, I say, you know, God's merciful. I know in my heart that they had to have known God. Even though they died in their sins, they had to have known him. And God willing that he lets them pass. Because that judgment, I mean, when you read the judgment in the Bible, it's so harsh, it's so strong. It's like, man, it's scary. It's scary just to watch somebody go like that, and then to not know where they're going afterwards. You know, it's a scary thing, you know, and that's why we come out here. You know what I mean? Everybody's story is a little different. You know, mine is I always feel like mine is a little bit more extreme, just because it's not a daily life, but man, like you talk to anybody that, you know, grows up in a Hispanic neighborhood and has friends that are gang members, or they're hustling, more than likely they're going to be involved in something like that. And it's a difficult world. It's a difficult life, you know what I mean? And the further we push away from those evil things and get closer to God, trust me, that life becomes blessed. That life becomes precious. That life, and once you learn that secret, once you learn that beautiful word, that life, there's so much more to life. Then you're going to reach out to those that you actually love, and you're going to push them into that. You know, you're going to push up into the young man that's growing up, that young, you know, the young little homie, you know, the young little homie, and try to get him away from that life. And I had many friends, you know, I had friends who started smoking, you know, meth, because meth was big at that time. Meth, you know, 12, 13, infecting their minds, and it didn't last long. I mean, they were gone. You know, they were doing a whole bunch of stuff. They would have to get high in order to do a lot of the stuff they did, and they would basically just keep it pushing, keep it going. And some make it, some don't. But it's a sad thing. You know, I wasn't at that time. I wasn't there at that time saying to them, like, hey, let's not do this. They would come to me as like, hey, you know, the homie got beat up, and we're talking about, you know, middle school kids, and I was like, let's go get him. And sure enough, we go around and go find him. And you're ready to change another person's life because of what they did to this young man, thinking that I'm here, some judge or some law enforcement or some street enforcer, thinking to myself that I have some sort of right trying to affect others because they hurt one of my friends, not knowing that if they did anything to one of theirs. I mean, it's a back and forth thing that's never ending, and it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing, you know, and living with Christ is very difficult. It is very difficult, but it's only because we're stuck in this world. And because we get stuck in this mentality that we can't move from this, that's why we continue to kind of just fix little by little, patch it here, patch it there, a little weld here, a little weld there, a little bit of, you know, two-part epoxy, and just keep it holding together until this whole thing is just so busted up that it falls apart, and then our world collapses. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. But ladies and gentlemen, Jesus is there to fix them tears, to fix them cracks in them welds, you know, take you back up, you know, replace the steel for the stainless, you know, make it, you know, coat it, make it all perfect, and make it hold strong, and say, hey, you're a brand new machine. Let's get out there and get these other machines fixed up. And here we are. Here we are, moving and pushing. I just hope, you know, don't hesitate to reach out, you know, when we're here, or even to pick up a little bit of the word, or, you know, listen to it. And sometimes, you know, you're guided into something.
Do you have any experience,
something positive, something beautiful, a word. Don't hesitate to reach out to it. Don't hesitate to listen to it. Put it in your mind, comprehend, and say to yourself, man, is that true?
God. Healing,
yes or no? And then keep it secret.
Deliverance.
I've been saved in a lot of ways, you know. I'm grateful for